Hey folks, we'll visit some cool places in ancient Egypt in the game Assassin's Creed Origins. So in this video, we're going to visit the city of Thebes, the home of the mighty temple of Karnak. And let's see what they got right in the game and what not so much. Let's get started. I'm gonna scoot myself here to the corner and let's get going. Alright, here we are, the mighty city of Thebes. Thebes is the name the Greeks gave it, because for some reason they went around calling things other names instead of just calling it by the name it had. It's like you go to New York and you call it Kachikawawa. The ancient Egyptian name of Thebes was Waset, which is the city of the Was scepter. The Was was an ancient Egyptian scepter which had the head of a jackal at the tip and a fork thing at the bottom. Or if you believe the conspiracy theorists, it is an ultrasonic drill that was given to the ancient Egyptians by aliens. Because mankind never did anything by itself. So here we are in Thebes, in a little aerial view. Thebes was known for the temple of Karnak, which is ahead of us, and the temple of Luxor, which is over there, and the great avenue of the sphinxes that connected both temples. Thebes was inhabited since about 3200 BC, and that's a very long time. It's about 5,000 years being a human settlement. It was the capital of ancient Egypt for most of the Middle Kingdom and most of the New Kingdom, but the capital moved around a lot depending on the political situation and who was the pharaoh and what was going on at the time. So let's take a look at this. Let's walk through the city of Thebes and let's head to Luxor first. So I'm in some sort of dock as I arrived, and there's a market ahead of me. And this is so cool that you get to walk in ancient Egypt. Well, this is as close as it's gonna get for us. But yes, you can see all kinds of stuff for sale here at the market. Oh, here's an interesting one. This is a game, so they're gonna copy and paste assets everywhere, but this here is a chair from the tomb of Tutankhamun, and it's just carelessly thrown in here with a bunch of other things. So it's funny. And here's the same pile of assets, the same chair, it's right over here, as you can see. They just copy and paste it. I think it's even the same guy. So we're walking through the streets of Thebes. And this is nice. These are mud brick houses, much as they would be in ancient times. And you know what? The last video that I made of Phonies Heraklion, I walked around everywhere. I'm going to ride through the streets of Thebes. And we're going to start with the temple of Luxor up ahead. Luxor, it wasn't a temple dedicated to any one pharaoh or deity. It was a temple for the renewal and rejuvenation of kingship. And it's where most pharaohs would come to be crowned, even if just symbolically. Alexander the Great claims he was crowned in the temple of Luxor, but we kind of know he did not make it that far south, so he was full of it. And here we have statues of Amun, and the hieroglyphics in the front of the temple are wrong. This is not what the temple of Luxor facade looks like. I need a rating system. I'm gonna give it King Tuts. I'll give the temple of Luxor here in this game 5 King Tuts out of 10. There's a temple, a statue of the Apis bull, another one over there. These are not in the real temple, we have obelisks instead. Which we do have here, but again, I'm gonna complain about Ubisoft's segmented obelisks. That's not what an ancient Egyptian obelisk looked like. Why didn't you go with the real thing? There is a couple elsewhere in the game, why not here? So this will get 3 tuts out of 10, the obelisks in this game, because I hate them. And the Temple of Luxor. The design of the temple is more or less accurate. It was the pylon of the first courtyard and the colonnade. This colonnade is interesting because it was, we believe it was built by Tutankhamun. And then Ramses II came along and put his name over it. You see he does that a lot. But the rear of the temple is completely wrong. Here should be the inner sanctum with the shrines and everything, not another big courtyard of a pylon. So yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with this one, but the design of the temple is not accurate. There was an avenue of sphinxes that connected both temples, the Temple of Luxor and the Temple of Karnak, and they had processions through this avenue. And it was flanked by sphinxes. As you can see here, we have ram sphinxes. The real one, it has cryo-sphinxes, which is the head of a ram and the body of a lion. These are just ram sphinxes. These would be Amun sphinxes. So, but the real one also has the sphinxes with the human head and the lion of a body, and here there is none to be found. So, yeah, Ubisoft, what gives? Oh, there's a procession going on here. That's so cool. Let's see, do I have slow gear in this horse? No, it only runs, or yeah, we walk slowly. So this would be a procession that they did in ancient Egypt. The sacred statues of the god in question would be put in this shrine, and it would be carried from one temple to the next, or from whatever it had to go to the next place. It would be carried in this barge, or a bark. And this is very cool to see. It's very accurate. And I'm stuck. There we go. On here, this is the Was scepter. I'm gonna have to put a stock photo somewhere, but this is the Was scepter. It had a head of a jackal, and they got the bottom wrong. It should be a little fork thing at the bottom. So, what gives Ubisoft? Some things they get really right, some things they get really wrong. I'll give this Was scepter 5 tuts out of 10, because it's kind of right, but kind of wrong too. I'm sure there are varieties during the long history of Egypt, but yeah. Alright, so neat little procession going on over there. That is cool. And here we arrived to the southern entrance of the Temple of Karnak. I think this one was. And let's go into the aerial view again. This would be the Temple of Mut, which there is for some reason a Greco-Roman building there in the game. I am not entirely sure how accurate this is. But the Temple of Mut was very notorious that its sacred lake was in a crescent shape. So there it is. Here, let's get out of this main avenue and let us enter the temple through the main entrance in the front. I'm riding around the streets of Thebes. Get out of the way, people. Let's see, how do I get there again? I go this way. Oh! That is something interesting. Let's go over there. Here's a blacksmith, and this one is very close to my heart because there's melting metals here. Look at him, he's melting something on that fire. He has crucibles there. The other guy is blowing on the fire to increase the temperature to melt. This would be probably bronze or copper. And they are casting something on those little flasks there. Let's watch the process. So he took it out of the fire with those tongs. That is so cool that they went so accurate on these small details, and now he's pouring the molten metal in the crucible. That is so cool. And that's awesome. I have no idea what they're saying. You can make out some words here and there, but Ancient Egyptian is a dead language, and there are some people who are incredibly fluent on it. I'm not one of them. Yeah, I would not pick up the crucible right after it's been in the fire with my bare hands like he just did there. That would not be... Yeah, but he's supposed to be putting something in it now, and they're going to melt it again. So, this little detail here, it's so cool. I'm gonna give it 10 tuts. Yes, this one gets 10 king tuts out of 10. Let's carry on. Sorry. There should be a bridge somewhere in here to cross. There is a little bridge. Yep. But I still have to go for the water here. Oh. Oh, I got my legs wet. What a tragedy. We're making to the entrance of the Temple of Karnak. There, here's some stairs. Alright, we are at the entrance of the Great Temple of Karnak. Let's go into the aerial view here. The pylons are wrong, again. The first courtyard is, I'm not entirely sure, I would call it accurate. And quite frankly, the temple isn't big enough. Karnak is immense. It's unbelievable how large it is. But overall, they got the idea correct. The shape is more or less correct. It has this offshoot here to the side. It has a sacred lake. It has some granaries here at this side, because temples at that time, they were not just like we have churches these days, which are basically just places of worship. Temples were the granaries, the main granaries of the state. They were also the main banks, which the currency at the time was pretty much grain. In the Ptolemaic period, they started to use coins, but grain was still king. And they were also centers of learning. They were where you went to get taught higher learning, basically. Let's go back to myself here, and let's enter the Great Temple of Karnak. The Temple of Karnak was, for the most part, dedicated to Amun, but there were other gods worshipped in there too. They were... Sorry. But yes, here are colossal statues of Amun at the entrance of the temple. More of those ram sphinxes. And let's go in. Yeah, I don't think this courtyard is very accurate to the real thing, but yeah, let's give them artistic liberty. A lot was changed in Karnak over the years, centuries, not over the millennia. This thing has been around for thousands of years. And this is supposed to be the Great Hypostyle Hall, but it's not too great, really. The Great Hypostyle Halls, it was started by Seti I, and then Ramses II finished it and put his name all over it. And it is 134 columns, and they are absolutely immense columns. You can't believe the size when you see them. It takes about 12 people to embrace one of those columns, and I don't think these columns are big enough. Also, I don't think there are enough of them. Let's count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in that direction, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this direction. So that's 30 columns times 2, that's 60. That's less than half the amount of columns there should be here. So yes, Ubisoft, did you guys run out of virtual space for the temple or something? Why is it not as big as it should be? I'll give it a 7 tuts out of 10. Because it's still cool. Like, if you're walking through this big colonnade hall, look at that. This is still cool. Especially with the chanting. That was cool. Now, what is she worshipping here? This one would be... there's a statue of the Apis bull in there. And there's another little shrine here. These things, they are called... these shrines, they're called naus. And it's where the sacred statues of gods would be placed for worship. And that's Sekhmet. And they copy and pasted Sekhmet all over this game. You'd think she's the most worshipped goddess in ancient Egypt. But I don't think it would be that many statues of her like this. And continue on the Temple of Karnak. Here at the end, you would not get... There is another courtyard, but then you would go into the inner sanctums of the temple, and those would be enclosed, covered spaces. The main statue of Amun would not just sit there in his front porch to a courtyard. Also, another thing here in this in the game that they did, they put a crypt here that leads to the High Priestess quarters. And I don't think Karnak had a crypt. In fact, most ancient Egyptian temples don't have crypts. One notorious example that has a crypt is Dendera. And there's where you find the Dendera light bulb. So again, if you're in the conspiracy theory and the aliens thing, check that out, but it's going to hurt your brain. So yes, this is Karnak. Let me go this way. Let's go out this way, see what there is that way. Here's the sacred lake, which is not looking very sacred. In fact, it's very yucky. And not big enough again. The sacred lake of Karnak is immense. This is like a big swimming pool. And needs to be cleaned up. I don't know if Karnak was under such a state of disrepair by the Ptolemaic period, the end of Ptolemaic period. If you know, let me know in the comments, if you know more info about this than I do. So let's walk here through the streets of Thebes. This is the more upper class area. You can see the houses, they are a lot fancier than the houses we first saw on the other side. See, let's go into the aerial view again. See, these are a lot more fancy houses than the houses we had been seeing before. There is still some of the mud brick there that's just very rough. These would all be mud bricks. In fact, except for the temples, ancient Egyptians, for the most part, they built everything out of mud brick. Of course, they used stone on the big monuments and all that, but for their own homes and even palaces, the palaces of the kings, they used mud brick. And all these things have disintegrated over the centuries, and we don't have much of them left. I don't think we have any complete intact palace from ancient Egypt, because it was built of mud brick. There is a ruin at Medinet Habu, the mortuary temple of Ramses III, that is very good, which has a royal palace in it. But it's just the foundation. It's nothing really big, tall walls or anything impressive like you see the temples. So yes, this video is getting enormous, so I'm gonna cut it short. I'm gonna cut it here. On the other side there is the Theban necropolis, where you find the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut. There's also the mortuary temple of Ramses II, the Ramseum, and the mortuary temple of Amenhotep III with the Colossi of Memnon. We're not going to go there today, but if you want me to visit, and the Valley of the Kings, of course, behind that mountain there, behind that cliff face, is the Valley of the Kings. If you want me to visit that location, let me know in the comments, and I'll make another video of that. For now, we'll just stay here in Thebes, just appreciating the view again of this mighty Egyptian city that we get to visit in Assassin's Creed Origins, which I find really cool because I'm a nerd. So, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, any comments, leave them below, and I'll see you next time.